Now, 4 a.m. here on the East Coast, headed for the hot seat, Inspector General Michael Horowitz, just hours away from testifying in front of Congress about his scathing report into Clinton email probe, what Republicans hope to uncover. And securing America's borders, President Trump pushing Congress to pay for his long-promised wall, what stands in his way as lawmakers kick negotiations into high gear. And Kathy Griffin strikes again. First, this disgusting picture of President Trump's severed head, and now a disgusting attack just launched on America's First Lady. Fox and Friends First starts right now. Just been waiting for you to wake up and join us right here on Fox and Friends First. Love a little Tom Petty in the morning to get the day started. A live shot of New York City for you there. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday morning. I'm Heather Childers. Let's get straight to our top story for you, though, all right? We have a live look at Capitol Hill. Lots of things happening there today. The DOJ, the Inspector General, and the FBI Director will be grilled over the Clinton email probe today. And now, anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok says that he's ready to testify too. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, D.C. as lawmakers demand more documents on the probe. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather. We have not heard the last of that 568-page IG report. As you mentioned, Director Wray and Inspector General Horowitz heading to the Senate Judiciary Committee this afternoon as President Trump applies pressure on that FBI agent who claimed he'd stop him from taking office. The president tweeting, "The highest level of bias I've ever witnessed in any law enforcement officer, Trey Gowdy on the FBI's own Peter Strzok." Also, remember that they all worked for slippery James Comey and that Comey is best friends with Robert Mueller. A really sick deal, isn't it? And Strzok is indicating that he is possibly willing to appear, but it's not a done deal. His attorney, Eitan Goldman, issuing this statement. Strzok thinks that his position, character, and actions have all been misrepresented and charactered, and he wants an opportunity to remedy that. But House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte says that if he's not willing to appear, he is prepared to subpoena Strzok. As House Intel Chair Devin Nunes says he's losing patience with the DOJ over turning over documents.
There's going to be hell to pay by Wednesday morning. I mean, if they don't have good reasons why they haven't provided us this information, you know, the American people's patience have run out. My patience have run out.
Even Nunes' Democratic counterpart, Adam Schiff, says Strzok's messages are concerning.
Certainly these text messages are very troubling. The fact they were on work email, the fact that they were commingled with emails discussing business, all that's problematic.
So here's where we are. We have the Judiciary Committee today at 2. Tomorrow, a joint committee on the House side. We will see if Peter Strzok joins Director Wray and Inspector General Horowitz. Heather?
Well, he says he's willing to, so, you know, we'll see if he follows through on that. Thank you so much, Griff. Appreciate it. Well, despite showing blatant anti-Trump bias, anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok is still on the FBI's payroll. Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz calling out the department, saying that there's no excuse for that.
FBI agents are allowed to be biased. They're allowed to support political candidates. That's part of the law. Where I draw the line is when an FBI agent says, "We'll stop him." That's not an expression of bias. That's not saying who we're going to vote for. That sends a message to the American people that the Federal Bureau of Investigation is going to interfere in an election in an effort to try to stop the election of one candidate rather than the other. I don't understand how Strzok can remain an FBI agent after saying we'll stop that. We'll stop him from being president. That, to me, is where the red line was crossed.
Well, after their text messages came to light, Peter Strzok was reassigned to the FBI's Human Resources Division, and Lisa Page resigned. We're also learning that Strzok's boss, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, used Lisa Page to have a direct hand in the Clinton email probe. According to the IG report, Page was used to bypass chain of command so McCabe's decisions could not be filtered by management. And McCabe says that he kept Page in the role despite upsetting officials. He says that Page brought issues to his attention that others did not. So lots to go through there with all those hearings this week. Well, now to this other Fox News alert. At least 3 people are dead and dozens more injured after a powerful earthquake rocks Japan. The 6.1 magnitude shock rattled the city of Osaka, bursting water mains, knocking down walls. Among the victims, a 9-year-old girl who died when a wall fell on top of her. It was the strongest registered quake in the city's recorded history, which is scheduled to host next year's G20 summit, by the way. Well, 2 dangerous inmates on the run after breaking out of jail through a hole in the wall. A 3rd suspect has been captured. A manhunt expanding for the other 2 who escaped the Illinois jail near the Indiana border. Security cameras capturing the men inside a cell hours before they used a pipe to smash through a brick wall. Deputies later covering that hole with a metal plate. One of the escaped inmates is facing murder charges. And an attempted carjacker is stopped by a good guy with a gun. A bystander shooting and killing the suspect in a Walmart parking lot after he shot at least 1 person and tried to steal 2 cars. That victim now hospitalized in critical condition. The bystander who took down the gunman is described by police as a good Samaritan. Well, today the president will meet with key senators about the border wall as the House prepares to vote on 2 immigration bills this week. And tensions are now rising over children being taken away from their parents. But the head of the Homeland Security says that we do not have a policy of separating families at the border, period. Steve Rappaport has the latest.
Members of Congress conduct their own immigration investigation. Lawmakers visiting a Texas facility Sunday, housing hundreds of immigrants detained at the border. Some of the children are among the 2,000 kids who were separated from their parents while trying to cross over. It's part of the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy announced back in April, but Democratic lawmakers say breaking up families is cruel and unnecessary.
The zero-tolerance policy means zero humanity, and it makes 0 sense.
The administration argues it's trying to deter future illegal border crossings, adding the separation of families is a result of existing law.
Nobody likes seeing babies ripped from their mother's arms, from their mother's wombs, frankly. But we have to make sure that DHS's laws are understood.
Democrats counter what the administration is doing is not law, it's policy.
The president could change this policy today. He could change it right now.
Border Patrol itself is even weighing in, pointing out the separations are consistent with how the U.S. handles plenty of unrelated cases.
That is no different from a United States citizen parent that is going through a judicial process, prosecuted for violating the law, and separated from his or her children.
Border Patrol notes the kids are getting cared for, provided with hot meals and medical services. The U.S. House is expected to vote on a pair of immigration packages this week. They'll include border funding and the restructuring of several visa programs. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
Well, the U.S. and South Korea expected to announce the end of joint military drills next week. A South Korean media reports that it will not affect routine training. They will restart the drills if North Korea breaks its promise of denuclearization. President Trump pledged to end the so-called war games after his summit with Kim Jong-un. And first daughter Ivanka Trump headlining 2 big fundraisers in California today. The White House senior advisor joining House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy at events in Fresno and Los Angeles. Well, they are fundraising for Protect the House. That's a political action committee led by McCarthy and Vice President Mike Pence. And celebrations all over the World Cup. And apparently they got so wild, it registered as an earthquake.
Lozano, cutting, looking, shooting, Lozano, go, Mexico leads!
So here's what happened. Thousands of fans bouncing up and down after the score, setting off seismic sensors in Mexico City. Well, officials say that a false earthquake was detected south of the border, likely triggered by mass jumping. Well, the Mexicans holding on to win 1-0, shocking the defending world champs from Germany. Now, I call that excitement. Nothing like that happened here, but it was a big win. A U.S. Open repeat for Brooks Koepka, the world's 9th-ranked golfer, becoming the first back-to-back Open champ in 29 years. Well, Koepka finishing 1 over par in the tournament in New York. The last man to accomplish that feat, Curtis Strange, seen interviewing Koepka for Fox after the big win. And then talk about Strange, like Koepka, he repeated at the Open on a New York course. To top it all off, the wins marked both of their second ever major victories. It was a tough course this past week for all those golfers out there. Well, the time now is about 10 minutes after the top of the hour, and off the rails, the shocking moment of freight train packed with propane goes up in a fiery explosion. And pushing for the wall, President Trump heading to Capitol Hill today to make his case for protecting the American people. So what does Congress have to do to make good on the president's promises? Immigration expert Jessica Vaughn is live up next with an answer. And keeping up with the Oval Office, is Kim Kardashian running for president? What she just said that is fueling 2020 rumors. Back to Fox and Friends First. Immigration taking center stage on Capitol Hill this week as President Trump holds a critical meeting with Senate decision makers today, where the big issue will be the border wall.
That's the Democrats' law. We can change it tonight. We can change it right now. We need a wall. We need border security. We got to get rid of catch and release. You catch a criminal, you take his name, you release him, and he never shows up again. He goes into our society.
So with several major pieces to this puzzle still needing to fall into place, where should the president start? Joining me now is the Director of Policy Studies for the Center for Immigration Studies, Jessica Vaughn. Thank you so much for joining us, Jessica. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so you say this is a pretty sticky situation for both the president and House Republicans. Why so?
Well, you've got this one bill that House Republicans have been working on for years now, the so-called Goodlatte bill, that accomplishes the president's agenda and more. It's what the majority of Republicans in the House want to see happen. It fixes the border security problems, interior enforcement, sanctuaries, addresses illegal employment through E-Verify. It reduces chain migration and does an amnesty for the people with DACA. Then the Paul Ryan enters the picture and waters down some of the calls it the compromise bill, which only a small handful of Republicans support, but they were the ones who were pushing this discharge petition, this small group of Republicans that are kind of outliers and in favor of more immigration. They convinced Paul Ryan to water it down and add all these provisions for guest workers and the employers who've literally been replacing Americans for decades with guest workers. They add them to the amnesty and water down the enforcement and border provisions. So it's unclear whether they're going to be able to figure out how to satisfy all these interests. Right. So now today the president is coming in, and what he should be doing is making sure that the enforcement provisions stay in there, that the amnesty is limited, and frankly, this is not the time to deal with guest worker programs at all. And adding them in at the last minute makes no sense, and that's going to lose the majority of Republicans, not to mention the Americans who have to vote for members of Congress come November.
Yeah, and we do know this is what the president tweeted just yesterday, Sunday. He said the Democrats should get together with their Republican counterparts and work something out on border security and safety. Don't wait until after the election, because you're going to lose. Of course, in reference to a lot of folks saying that, not only just Democrats, but Republicans also holding on to this to use for the elections, the midterm elections specifically moving forward, and with Democrats saying that they have, no other issue to stand on right now. One other thing I wanted to say to you is that I guess during an interview with us on Friday, the president said that he would not support this more moderate one moving forward, being, of course, the one that is supported by Paul Ryan. So what do you expect in terms of what the president will do today? Like, why have this meeting? Is there an area that he thinks that they can specifically compromise on?
Well, that's, I think, what he's going to have to talk through with these Republicans, and I hope we'll also reassure them of what's needed. We still have this festering crisis at the border with families and children coming across illegally, and these bills would deal with that. And the Democrats have been complaining about that, for the last couple of weeks. But, if they sign on to one of these bills, they could fix that. But I hope the president is going to make it clear that, this is not the time to be throwing in all these extraneous provisions for guest workers. Stick to the 4 pillars that they all agreed on a few months ago of ending chain migration, the border wall, enforcement, and a limited solution for the people with DACA. And that's what will get them over the finish line.
Why would Paul Ryan be throwing that in at the last minute, these guest workers? Because what you're saying makes perfect sense. So why do that at this late date?
Well, he's a lame duck speaker now, and so I'm sure that he is responding to the many lobbyists for these big employers who are constantly bombarding his office to try to get breaks on bills like this. This is how, kind of classic backroom dealing for legislation that doesn't always have the best result for the American people.
Got it. All right, Jessica Vaughn joining us this morning. Thank you so much. We always appreciate your insight.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. Have a great day. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes after the top of the hour, and deadly high-speed crash. The illegal immigrants trying to outrun the law that were ejected right from their SUV. And Kathy Griffin just took her attacks against the First Family to a whole new level. The sick words that she had for our First Lady that's igniting backlash. Carly Shimkus is here with the outrage online. Good morning. Well, first, she did this disgusting stunt, decapitating the President of the United States. And now Kathy Griffin is setting her sights on the First Lady. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, SiriusXM 115 is here with her vulgar tirade. Another one. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Heather. It all started when the First Lady Melania Trump's office issued a statement in response to backlash over the Trump administration's controversial immigration policies, saying Mrs. Trump hates to see children separated from their families and hopes both sides of the aisle can finally come together to achieve successful immigration reform. She believes we need to be a country that follows a law, but also a country that governs with heart. Well, insert comedian Kathy Griffin, who responded to that, tweeting, "Bleep you, Melanie. You know your husband can end this immediately. You feckless, complicit piece of bleep." Well, she is now, of course, landed in the hot seat among Trump supporters once again. One Twitter user saying, "Thank you for helping Trump seal the deal for 2020. Your lashing out only helps us grow stronger." Diane says this woman has no class. And Robert also tweets, "Kathy Griffin is hate-filled and pathetic. You're a part of the reason the left can't be taken seriously." So this, of course, no surprise coming from Kathy Griffin.
Yeah.
But if she did read that statement from the First Lady, she would probably agree with it.
Right.
The crazy thing.
Yeah. It's moments like that I miss a world without Twitter.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because they can
keep those thoughts to yourself.
Exactly. So Kim Kardashian, she is on a new mission, a new prison case she's taking on.
Yeah, that's right. She appears to have a little bit of interest in a new case. She tweeted at the California governor, Jerry Brown, saying, "Can you please test the DNA of Kevin Cooper?" So Cooper was sentenced to death after he was found guilty for murdering 4 people in 1983. But questions still remain over whether police tampered with his blood samples. And also, listen to this, Kim Kardashian not ruling out a future political run.
Did you ever run for office?
I guess never say never, but that's not going to be like a Kim's run.
Okay.
That's not where
what
I'm going for.
Oh, you never know. Never say never. So social media now weighing in. One Twitter user says, "Thank you for bringing awareness to this hugely important case. Justice delayed can be justice denied." Juliana says, "Really happy to see you investigating another case." And another Twitter user says, "Look at you becoming an advocate for injustice. That's wonderful." So apparently a new passion project for Kim Kardashian.
I like to see her getting involved. I think that's a good thing.
A new very serious side of her that we're not used to seeing.
All right. Thank you so much, Carly.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
You too.
Well, the time now is about 25 minutes after the top of the hour. And hand over the Clinton documents or prepare to face the consequences. That message from top Republicans firing back at the DOJ.
We're going to get compliance, or the House of Representatives is going to use its full arsenal of constitutional weapons to gain compliance.
But will it scare them enough to finally get something done? Our political panel on deck to debate that up next. And another Tesla bursting into flames on a street packed with cars. How the company is responding this morning. Welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends First. Today, President Trump discussing immigration and border security on Capitol Hill. At the meetings with Senate Appropriations Committee Chairman Richard Shelby and West Virginia Senator Shelley Moore Capito, comments some tensions rise over immigrant children being taken away from their parents. But the head of Homeland Security tweets, "We do not have a policy of separating families at the border, period." The House is expected to vote on 2 immigration bills this week. And the president says he will not sign any bill that doesn't meet his 4 pillars for immigration reform. Congressman Michael McCaul has been in the thick of negotiations as the chair of the House Homeland Security Committee, and he says that he's confident that his bill has the president's support.
The president is fully committed to both of these bills. He's put the full weight of his office behind it. The McCaul-Goodlatte bill, they both, I would say, provide the 4 pillars that I discussed with the president at that sort of famous roundtable discussion. Most importantly, from my perspective, Marie, it's got border security in there. It's got funding for the wall the president really wants. I do think this is a historic opportunity to advance a conservative agenda that we've been trying to do for the last 25 years, to structurally change the way we do immigration and make it more merit-based rather than random, and also get that border secure, because the threats, as I get briefed by the secretary and the ICE director, of potential terrorists and drug cartels and all the other stuff is real.
Well, the president's 4 pillars for immigration reform, just to remind you, includes a path to citizenship for dreamers, a fully funded border wall, an end to the visa lottery program, and an end to chain migration. In the meantime, 5 illegal immigrants killed in a crash trying to outrun Border Patrol agents. Jeff Paul brings us the very latest on that high-speed chase that happened in Texas.
A fatal crash near the Texas-Mexico border involving a car full of undocumented immigrants. The SUV packed with more than a dozen people overturning in Dimmick County Sunday. Officials say the car was trying to escape the U.S. Border Patrol, eventually running off the road and flipping over at a speed of more than 100 miles an hour.
The vehicle ran off the road and caught gravel, and then tried to recorrect and then caused the vehicle to turn over several times.
This photo of the mangled Chevy Suburban gives you an idea of the force of the impact. 12 of the 14 occupants were ejected from the vehicle. 4 people were pronounced dead at the scene. Another died on their way to a hospital in San Antonio. Officials and responders could be seen walking the highway, piecing together evidence scattered across the pavement in what they say is a very busy area for human smuggling.
This is, I think, a perfect example of why our borders need to be secure.
Anita Richardson lives nearby.
I've driven at night and they're running. You can see them in 20 or 15. They go in front of you. They want to stop you, and I just keep on going and praying. Good Lord, just don't get in my way.
The driver, a suspected U.S. citizen who was able to walk away from the deadly crash, was taken into police custody. Jeff Paul, Fox News.
Well, the Pentagon is shifting attention from boots on the ground to hackers and computers. The New York Times reporting that the U.S. Cyber Command is ramping up their fight against threats from other nations. The command, which previously focused on stopping cyber attacks and nuclear tests, now carries out cyber raids daily. American intelligence agencies call cyber threats the greatest risk facing the U.S. And the former British spy behind the fake dossier about President Trump taking the hot seat today, Christopher Steele, ordered to appear for a videotape deposition in London. Now, this is part of a civil suit that was filed by a Russian technology executive against BuzzFeed, which you may remember published the unverified report. That executive claims that Steele misrepresented his company in the dossier, which suggested that the Kremlin influenced the president's 2016 campaign. Well, the NYPD firing back at New York City liberals who say that the department's gang database is racially biased. Chief of Detectives DeMart Shea forced to defend the crime-fighting tools, saying, quote, to dismantle a criminal organization, you have to understand its size, its scope, who its members are, and what crimes each member has committed. And joining me now to react is former NYPD officer Dr. Darren Porcher. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it this morning.
Always a pleasure.
So first of all, explain to us what this gang database is.
What the gang database is, it's a comprehensive overview of different members of gangs throughout the course of New York City that have been arrested. So what they have is the backgrounds, modus operandi, in how people commit these particular crimes. So I give you an example. Let's say if someone was to approach someone from the rear and rob them, so to speak, and then they were to flee, and that person had an semblance of gang paraphernalia. What they'll do is the NYPD would now look into the database for who's committed these types of similar acts, and then that's where we give them the first foot forward in conducting an investigation.
Okay, so the accusation is that it's racially biased, but it's not just, I mean, someone doesn't become a member of this database just based on their race?
No, it's based on your activity and your prior arrest record as a gang member. The truth of the matter is the communities of color or the minority communities are under siege, and the inordinately high populace of this, these horrific acts are committed by gang members in these minority communities. Therefore, they need to focus on those individuals. Now, granted, the gross majority of these people in this database are of minority descent, but the truth of the matter is the minority communities are the communities that are being affected the most.
So those communities are being targeted.
Right, and believe it or not, the people that live in these communities want this database to stay up. It's the city council that's countering this, and ultimately, I think it's just a series of hyperbole that's being enacted by the city council members just for electoral votes moving forward. But the truth of the matter is the people in these communities want the eradication of gang members in the community.
So people who are government leaders who do not even live in these communities don't know what people in these communities actually want, which according to you, they want these gang databases to help clean up their communities, but they're out there, you know, speaking out against them, but you say it's because of political gain.
Absolutely. It's the political association with the belief that they will gain more voters, but moving forward, you have to keep in mind that it's these people in these communities that want the eradication of groups such as Bloods, Crips, MS-13s, Latinos, the Torrentinos, etc.
So we can take a look at some of the statistics, in the facts by the numbers for people at home. 90% of people in the database had been arrested for a felony, 11 average arrests, including 5 felonies for those included in the database. And that's for one person, an average of 11 arrests.
Yeah, and another thing that this didn't have is 50% of the people in this database have been arrested for robbery. And robbery seems to be one of these crimes that can create a real problem for us in the New York City culture. So I just think that the database is something that's sound, and it gives a quantitative assessment for the NYPD to better protect the citizens moving forward with 21st century police.
And there are other databases, similar databases in other communities as well, like Chicago, LA specifically, that are also under fire for, you know, similar complaints from people saying that they're racially biased, amongst other things.
Yeah, absolutely, but we have to take in consideration the primary focus is protecting the citizens of this metropolis in New York City, and other, like as you mentioned, other police departments have similar databases to protect the citizens that they serve. And this is just something moving forward that is the best quantitative assessment that any police department can use to target those individuals that commit these horrific acts.
And it seems like it would be beneficial to also have cross-reference availability amongst the gang databases as well from different areas.
Right. Well, I mean, a partnership in law enforcement is always the best thing, and this is something where the federal government moves in, and I have to commend President Trump, and he's someone that's touted this partnership between federal and local law enforcement. And as you mentioned, this is something that's going to move us forward to produce more precipitous drops in crime.
Yeah, well said. All right, thank you. you so much for joining us. Always great to have you with us.
Always
Appreciate it. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and running for their lives. Shocking video showing tourists crushed as a ceiling collapses on top of an escalator. The investigation that's happening right now into when the world went wrong. Oh. And then awesome and overwhelming, a red carpet rollout for a dozen veterans. The heroes welcome that will make your morning. Well, a freight train packed with propane derails and then burst into flames. You can see the aftermath there. Emergency responders in Indiana going door to door telling people to pack up and leave as these huge flames and plume of thick black smoke shoot into the sky. No one was injured. That's the good news. Investigators are looking into what caused the train to derail. And some shocking moments when the roof comes crumbling down, sending people running for their lives. You can see a group of people at a popular Chinese tourist spot. They were on an escalator, I should say. They look up, then they realize the ceiling is about to land right on top of them. Well, at least 9 people in this incident were injured, but incredibly, none of them seriously. An investigation is now underway. Back at home, a major court battle brewing between 2 of the nation's largest beer companies. Tracy Carrasco from our sister network, Fox Business, here with a major blow that PBR may soon be dealt. Good morning.
Good morning, Heather. Yes, we are talking about Miller Coors and PBR. So currently, Miller Coors brews all of Pabst Brewing beers. That includes Pabst Blue Ribbon. But the brewing agreement between the 2 companies expires in 2020. And right now, the 2 are at odds, trying to come up with some sort of deal there, some sort of contract that works for both of them. So if they cannot, this could really hurt PBR's business, hurt Pabst Brewing. Potentially what would happen to them, we're not sure. So the 2 will head to court in November to try and work this out. Hopefully by then they can work out some sort of deal.
All right, but in the meantime, let's talk about these new Delta cabins. We got a sneak peek of them?
Yes, that's right. This is the Delta 777 jet. They've got a new retrofit with some new interior cabin. Now, we mostly see these with long international flights. They have about 296 seats, but they are unveiling the Delta One business class seat, which is essentially a private suite where you can slide the door closed and have your own little space there. They've also have the Delta Premium Select, which is a seat with extra space, some recliner features, and then, of course, some things that come with the premium amenities. And then what's great with the Delta main cabin, the economy class, they're saying that they have fewer seats in that area. They're actually wider, some of the widest they have in their international fleet of airplanes, which we haven't seen many airlines do, making their seats. Yes, less seats.
Normally it's the opposite.
Exactly.
So the new seats with the door, so it's complete privacy, that's business class?
That is kind of, I would say, it's kind of like the first class, and then the business class, we can call it the Delta Premium Select.
Okay. Regardless, it costs more.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Thank you so much. This looks awesome.
Yes, they do.
Well, the time now is about 15 minutes until the top of the hour, and hand over the Clinton documents or prepare to face the consequences. That message from top Republicans firing back at the DOJ.
We're going to get compliance, or the House of Representatives is going to use its full arsenal of constitutional weapons to gain compliance.
But will it scare them enough to finally get something done? Our political panel on deck to debate it. Up next. Well, declaring an all-out war, top Republicans threatening to use their full arsenal of constitutional weapons if the FBI and the DOJ keep stonewalling over FISA court and Clinton email document request.
There's going to be action on the floor of the House this week if the FBI and DOJ do not comply with our subpoena requests. We're going to get compliance, or the House of Representatives is going to use its full arsenal of constitutional weapons to gain compliance.
But will this be enough to finally get something done? Here now to debate is Republican strategist Chris Prudhomme and former DHS consultant Mustafa Tamiz. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Good morning.
Okay, so Chris, I'm going to start with you. We just heard what Trey Gowdy said. He said that they would use the full arsenal of constitutional weapons to gain compliance. Will that be enough?
You know,
with this particular agency, I guess you can say, under the direction previously of James Comey, it just has been a nightmare. The Judiciary Committee has requested over 1 million documents in regards to the Hillary probe, and obviously up until currently now. They are running this agency still, so to speak, with the quote-unquote heart of James Comey. With he obviously is gone, but with his employees and staff, people that understand the inner workings of the FBI prior to President Trump, still are working there now. These individuals are acting like they're running their own personal goon squad in America. This is outrageous. It is absolutely ridiculous and an insult to the American people. President Trump won the election fair and square, and it's time to start acting like it.
You know, Mustafa, it was back, in late March that the Attorney General, or I'm sorry, the FBI Director, Christopher Wray, he said that he was going to appoint 54 different FBI agents to get this process rolling, to move it forward and release these documents. But yet we're still here. So if you don't call that stonewalling, what do you call it? Not doing your job.
Well, Christopher Wray is a lifelong Republican. Look, he's a lifelong Republican, handpicked by the president, Senate confirmed by this Republican Senate. So if he's pushing back, maybe we should realize that there's nothing there, and this is another manufactured controversy against Hillary Clinton. And let me talk about the DOJ. The DOJ is run by Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions, another lifelong Republican who was appointed by the president, traveled with the president, campaigned with the president, confirmed by Republican Senate. Rod Rosenstein, a lifelong Republican, confirmed by the Republican Senate, handpicked by the president. These are president's men that are pushing back. And so we should really realize that Trey Gowdy is not functioning as a representative of the people, but he's functioning like he's part of the royal court of the King Donald Trump. And that has to stop.
But what does that really have to do with, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat? They're not getting the job done. And these documents have been requested. And there's still this backlog of, reasons that they haven't been released up to this point. Chris?
That's right. And you have individuals who are insubordinate. And yes, Jeff Sessions obviously runs, and obviously we have other Republicans who are obviously in leadership positions. That's not the point. The reality is they cannot control each of these individuals as under them, employee-wise, and the FBI, the DOJ. These are individuals, some of them, who are still there, who are still loyal to Comey and to other individuals who have some type of personal vendetta. And that is what we have to stop. And that is what Trey Gowdy is speaking of. And they're saying, look, we will come at you with the full extent of the law, contempt of Congress, whatever needs to be done to get this done effectively and to make it happen. And that's what this is about.
Yeah, and why can't the different sides get along? I mean, you have the DOJ, you have Rod Rosenstein threatening to, subpoena, and we're going to do this to you, and threatening the House Republicans, and then you have the House Republicans, threatening the DOJ and the FBI. Shouldn't they all be working together in the best interest of the people here in the United States? Isn't that the bottom line? And don't we all deserve to know what's in these documents if there was, in fact, no bias?
Well, the bottom line is that Trey Gowdy is not acting in the interests of people. He's trying to he's manufacturing a controversy that doesn't exist. They've been given every document they've been asked for. What they want is some kind of investigation that can't happen because the OIG, everyone that's looked at this said that there's nothing there. So this is an ongoing effort to create some type of hysteria against Hillary Clinton. She is not the president. The president of the United States is Donald Trump, and he is being investigated by the Department of Justice for the crimes that he's potentially committed. So we need to let those investigations go forward,
right, Chris,
not create this sideshow that there's something going on in Hillary Clinton.
Chris, final word.
But Trey Gowdy said himself that he does not want drama. They don't want hysteria. They just want to get things done and get results. And that's what this is about, is results. There is nothing there. And the reality is that if everyone would cooperate and work together, we wouldn't have this hysteria going on today.
Very good point. All right. Thank you both for joining us, Chris, Mustafa. We appreciate it. We'll see what happens. Well, and we will be right back. Stay with us. Well, today, a California father will become the first cancer patient to go to trial against agrochemical giant Monsanto. Over 1,000 people are suing the company, claiming that its popular weed killer, Roundup, gave them cancer. Well, Johnson's case is the first to go to trial because doctors say he's nearing death. Johnson applied Roundup 20 to 30 times a year, working as a pest manager for a county school system. And a bombshell investigation shedding some light on the care our veterans are receiving inside nursing homes. Statistics that have been hidden until now. Out of the 133 VA nursing homes nationwide, 60 received the lowest rating of 1 out of 5 stars. The VA made the ratings public after USA Today and the Boston Globe began asking some questions. President Trump has been calling for the release of the ratings and blames the Obama administration for keeping them secret. And finally, it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Up first, the good. 12 Utah veterans getting a warm welcome home after an honor flight to our nation's capital. Senator Orrin Hatch touring several memorials with the veterans during their 3-day trip. That's always a great trip for them. And up next, the bad. Actress Mary McCormick sharing this shocking video on a social media, I think I should say, of her husband's Tesla Model S bursting into flames. She says that it started out of the blue, and the company calling it extraordinarily unusual. There have been at least 5 accidents involving Teslas this year. 3 of those have been deadly. And the ugly, finally, a man busted for making more than 1,000 fake returns to Walmarts all across the country. The man was eventually caught in Arizona trying to return a computer with missing parts. In 18 months, he made more than $1.3 million in returns. That's a lot of money. Well, that wraps up this hour of Fox and Friends First. Thank you very much for joining us. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Have a great day. Bye-bye.